All right, I want to take a second to talk about physical properties, and I'm also going to talk about chemical properties. So, what physical and chemical properties are is it's a way for us to describe what a substance might look like or might act like. So, I want you to think about how you might describe what your backpack looked like. You might talk about color, shape, size. These are all examples of physical properties. So, physical properties is a description of just what something looks like without making any changes. Physical properties are very important in labs. I always ask you to describe a substance's physical properties, 4 or 5 of them in a lab. That way you can tell if a substance changed. If the physical properties look different after a lab than before, you might have an example of a chemical change. So some common physical properties might include color, texture, or odor. These are the most common ones, and these are some describing words that you might see. Luster might be a new term for you. Luster is how shiny something is. Clarity is how clear something is. So if something is totally clear, we say it's transparent. If you can't see through it at all, it's opaque. And if you can kind of see through it, think of like a piece of wax paper. You can see the outline of your hand, but you can't see your hand. We would call that translucent. Taste, we never taste anything in a lab, but taste is an example of a physical property. Viscosity is how easily a liquid flows. So if something is considered to be very viscous, then it's a very thick liquid. Malleability is the ability to be hammered into sheets. So I like to think about aluminum foil for malleability, right? You've got a nice thin sheet of aluminum. It's very bendable. That's a malleable substance. Ductility is the ability for a substance to be drawn into a wire. Malleability and ductility typically refer to metals. So think about some of the metals that might make wires, copper, nickel. Those are all very ductile substances. Hardness is the resistance of a substance to being scratched or bent. Oftentimes, scientists will have a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a very soft substance, 10 being a very hard substance. Conductivity is the ability to conduct heat or electricity. If you're very conductive, you have a high conductivity. If you're not very conductive, you have a low conductivity. And density is the amount of mass per unit volume. So it's a measurement. Every single one of these substances can be measured without actually changing your substance. Physical properties, they're important to understand in grade 9. So there is a list of physical properties just in your D2L page. There's a list of your chemical properties in your D2L page. Chemical properties are important to identify. You don't typically see chemical properties in grade 9 though. So what chemical properties are identifying factors, but they're identifying factors once you've actually changed the substance. So some chemical properties that you see on your D2L page include flammability, combustibility. To measure all of those things, you have to actually go through and change your substance. So because of that, you actually want to make sure you always measure your physical properties before you measure your chemical properties. So essentially, you want to make sure this is going to be your go-to list. Every lab that you do in chemistry, I'm going to ask for physical properties. So you want to make sure you know a couple of these so that way you can always describe what a substance looks like.